Welcome back to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. My name is Coach Sheffer. I am the offensive line coach at Brentsville District High School in Nokesville, Virginia, and I am your host today. We have another great guest today. We have Coach Jason Strunk on today, but first, before I introduce him, if you are watching us on YouTube, do us a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. We are trying to grow our coaching community here on the podcast, trying to get the word out of all these great coaches that we are having on the podcast. If you'd rather listen to this in audio form, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, as well as many other podcast platforms. So today's guest is Coach Jason Strunk. Coach has a storied coaching background, including stints at Muhlenberg College and Purdue. Coach Strunk is currently the athletic director at Manheim Township High School, located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Coach Strunk, welcome on to the podcast. Thank you for agreeing to come on today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I don't know about the storied part, but I'll take it. I had a lot of fun in my career.
Man, your bio was almost 2 pages long. That's pretty storied compared to mine. All right. So we're just going to jump right in. And the first question that I ask pretty much everybody is, I'm always fascinated with everyone's coaching journey because we all seem to have our own unique path into how we got into coaching and what happened to us ever since. So could you basically tell us, how did you eventually end up to where you are now? And take as long as you want. Go ahead and hit all those points that were in that bio for me, Coach.
Right. It's really incredible where I ended up and how I ended up in coaching. And, if people know me, they know, I'm always looking for the positive out of a negative. And I've kind of, based my career on that. And I never took over a program with a winning season or coming off a winning season, I should say. I've always been into rebuilding. I always wanted to build my own, build it from the ground up and take it and run with it. And with that, it comes a lot of positivity. You face a lot of negativity coming into places like that, and you have to be positive. I think that really sums up how I got my start. I was a typical kid, played, baseball, football, wrestled. Then once I was a freshman in high school, I think, I stopped wrestling and just focused on baseball and football. And I was going to go play baseball. I mean, I love football, but I was a baseball guy. So it's funny, my son's at the Citadel now, running track, and that's where I was heading at the time. And my senior year in high school, my mom, she passed away. She died. And that was tough, being 18 years old and all of a sudden your mom's gone. It altered my entire life. Literally changed everything about me. Went into a deep, dark hole. Didn't know if I was ever going to recover from it. And I basically hit rock bottom. At 20 years old, I could say basically hit rock bottom in life. I don't know if a lot of people can say that. I'm sure people can, and they can relate. But at 20 and you see nothing but darkness in front of you, it's tough. Luckily for me, athletics was my life, and that's what I loved. And I was around great coaches, at that time, and they all kind of brought me back in, kind of rescued me. Chris Gerhard was one of my coaches at Northampton High School. He got a head coaching job at Nazareth High School, and he basically showed up at my house one day and said, "Listen, you're done doing this here with me. You're coaching football." Okay. And that was it. So it was a high school football coach that literally, and I tell people this all the time, literally saved me. And then on that staff was a guy named Tim Clancy, who, I coached running backs with, and he coached me at Northampton High School as well. And I bring that name up because now it's come full circle. I'm at Manheim Township, and his son's the starting linebacker here. So I see Tim, weekly, and it's weird how it's all come full circle. He's a guy, that really, picked me up and showed me the ropes in coaching and helped save my life again, So that's what it was. It was coaches saving me. I was an athlete, and those relationships meant a lot to me. I realized, what? Life is about obstacles. We can overcome it. Just need people to believe in you. And those guys, picked me up off the trash heap and saved me. And they're my football coaches. And I realized I can turn this into a career. This is what I want to do. So, Chris Gerhard, Tim Clancy, at Northampton High School, Doug Yanders, another guy at Northampton High School, and then a guy I ran into, and he hired me as his defensive coordinator, Tico Johnson. He gave me my first shot as a coordinator, and I took it and ran with it. I was fortunate to be around great people, and those guys showed me the ropes. So I'm everything I have in my career, my family, everything, I owe it to those guys, that took a shot at me or took a shot on me. So that's what started it, overcoming my mom's death, getting into it, and then realizing I can help high school kids the way these coaches helped me. And that meant a lot to me. So I got into the profession for the right reasons, in my opinion. Wasn't financially motivated, I mean, we know that. It was for all the right reasons. And I got to a point where, I could make this into my career, and this is what I want to do. And I wanted better for my family. Not that there's anything wrong with where I grew up, but I'm not the kind of guy that, looks to spend my entire life in one place. I had goals. There's things I wanted to accomplish. So we had a great run at my alma mater. I was back there coaching at my alma mater, and that led me to an interview in Colorado, the University of Colorado, or interview for a GA position. It was coaching tight ends, and it was $12,000 a year to live in Boulder, Colorado. And my wife and I had I think my son was 6 at the time, and I was like, I don't think we can swing that. So I ended up going to Muhlenberg College and working for Mike Donnelly, and Jeff Narr was our offensive coordinator, and he's now the head coach at King's College. Another, great influence, role model for me in the coaching field. And Mike Donnelly recently passed away, and that really, hit me hard. I learned a lot from him, and he really put Muhlenberg College on the map. But that 2007 season went unbeaten. Best season in school history at that time. And a few years ago, that entire team and coaching staff and so forth were all inducted into the Muhlenberg College Hall of Fame. So that was pretty cool, being able to do that. And that was a springboard for me on my mission to get out of Pennsylvania and turn this into a career. I ended up at Plant City, a 5A school in Florida. Good athletes, hadn't really strung together some good seasons. Went in there with a little discipline and hard work and, building relationships. In 2 years, we turned it into a nationally recognized program. With a lot of Division I recruits, great kids, worked hard, and we did good things there. And that was my springboard. Down there, it's different. It's the I-4 corridor. And, I had, you name the coach, and they came to my office in those years at Plant City. So many college coaches, Jim McElwain, who was the OC at Alabama at that time, Skip Holtz, Gus Malzahn, you name it. Those guys came through there and put us on the map. And one was Sean Clark, who was the O-line coach at Purdue at the time, who's now the head coach at Appalachian State right now. And he and I built a relationship, and he called me one day and said, "Hey, we have this offensive quality control job open. I like you. What do you think?" I was like, yeah, it's my goal. I want to coach Division I football. And that was it. That was my springboard into Purdue. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. And that was a mission of mine, lifelong goal. Got there and loved it. Learned a lot from Coach Danny Hope, and it was fun. The end of my first year there, I realized I knew what it was, and I enjoyed it. But once you're in it, and you have a family and a young son, you're kind of like, wow, I want to see my son grow up. This is great. I'm following my dreams, but I want to see my son grow up. My wife would keep my son up till 10, 11 p.m. I'd sneak home and play football with him in the yard, then go back to the office. It was tough, so I came to a decision. I said, what's the next best thing to coach in Division I football? Oh, Texas high school football. So I reached out to Chad Scott, who was a running back coach at Texas Tech. And I say, Chad, I need some help. Find me the worst job in Texas. I want it. I want to come coach Texas high school football. And he said, well, you know what? It's weird. You're calling me just the other day. Really, a program really struggling, and they have for a long time, just opened up. And that was it. Made one phone call, and a few weeks later I was down there interviewing, and then they flew me back down to interview at the AFCA convention and offered me a job at Lubbock High. I mean, just like that. So I spent 7 years there. We broke a 40-year playoff drought. I believe time it was 36 years. I was told we'd never get into the playoffs. I was told we wouldn't get Plant City to the playoffs. We did. Every spot we did. I had great kids, great coaching staff, and they made my job easy. So I spent 7 years at Lubbock High. That was fun. But at some point you realize, we're doing all we can here. It's time to move on. I ended up down on South Padre Island at Port Isabel High School. Was hired by a great superintendent there. Fantastic woman. She brought me in, got in there my first year. We started in July. First day of practice in August, I didn't know 95% of the kids' names. It was tough, but we could overcome that. And strung together a pretty solid season for getting in there so late. And we're basically a point away from going 3 rounds deep in the playoffs. So it was good. And then, last year there was a superintendent change and it really wasn't, jiving for me. It was difficult. And that's the tough part of the business. I wasn't going to stay there and deal with that. And I don't know if you know me well enough, but I'm straightforward. I don't sugarcoat things. I was miserable, and it was done to me and my family intentionally. And that's it. So what do? Well, you dust off and you find a new job. And my son was offered a scholarship to run track at the Citadel. So my wife and I thought, hey, it's a great time to get back east. We're closer to him. We get down there and watch him run track and see him run in college, something I wouldn't be able to do, a whole lot. And just this past weekend, we went down there for Parents Weekend. Got to hang out with them. And I'm like, hey, this is, October. Here I am. I'm not on the sideline. I'm watching them, hanging out with my son at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. And all the misery, we went through last year was washed away. We fought through it, found something better, and here we are. So that's kind of my story and how I ended up where I am. And it started from tragedy, really, with my mom dying. And just finding a way to get through life and have a good family and build on that and help kids along the way.
Coach, that was pretty powerful what you were talking about, how a high school football coach potentially saved your life. And I find that to be so true. Coaches and teachers, we influence more people in one day than a lot of people do in their whole lifetime. And so it's a tough job because that's a lot of pressure. But I love it. I can't see myself doing anything else. I can't see myself stop teaching and stop coaching because I just love forming the relationships with the kids. And I've had some coaches who have been huge influences on my life as well. Now you're an athletic director now. Most of our listeners are high school coaches, and you have obviously been a high school coach many times. Could you take us a moment to describe what your daily life is? How different is your life now as an athletic director than it was as a coach?
Yeah, well, I mean, the past 10 years in Texas, I was athletic director, head football coach. So it's a dual role. And I think that's what I was looking for. I had the experience as an AD, and I've done so much in football, and I really gravitated towards the AD role. Like I love working with the girls volleyball team and seeing them play girls basketball and spending time with them. I really started to enjoy that. And then you're running your own football program too in Texas. I mean, it's tough. It's not meant for everyone. There's a lot that goes into it. But all that experience, as an AD there, had me ready to take on, getting off the sidelines and just being a full-time AD in a place like Pennsylvania. This is 6A school, great campus. I mean, it reminds me of a college campus with the facilities we have. So my life is drastically different right now. I went from, running my own football team, watching film, having a coaching staff, doing all that stuff, prepping. I mean, you know all the stuff that comes into play being a football coach. Doing all that stuff and the AD on top of it. It's a lot. So now the football side of it is wiped out, and I'm just the AD. It's drastically different. Now I'm doing a bunch of work in the office. Most of the day, there's no film. There's no adrenaline on Friday nights. The adrenaline I have now is making sure security is where we need it and things like that. So it's drastically different. So I do most of the day we work on, and then right now COVID is an entirely different animal. That's added so much to it. But it's making sure we have referees. It's making sure we have security. It's making sure the facilities are right. It's making sure the fields are set up. Doing eligibility reports, on the student athletes. COVID, writing COVID documents, having a spectator plan together. I mean, you name it. You would think I wouldn't be as busy since, head coach is off my resume right now. But with the COVID stuff added in this, it's like I'm still coaching football. So, my daily routine is different. Obviously, there's no football, but I'm just as busy, more office work. But I make sure every day, 3:00, you can see me walking through campus. I'm walking anywhere between 6 to 10 miles a day here, checking out, the programs, checking with coaches, watching the kids play. And I've enjoyed that. It's been fun. It's been a good change up, especially for a guy that spent the past 25 years on the sidelines. So it's a little different, but you adjust, and I'm enjoying it.
So as I was reading the bio that you sent me, which was great, by the way, you should probably write a book if you haven't already. And you've kind of mentioned it. As a coach, you were kind of known for turning around unsuccessful programs. You mentioned how you didn't want to go to a school that had a winning season. Could you take some time to describe the process of taking a losing program and turning it into a playoff team? So you start at the beginning. What do you do day one, and then what's the process from that point on?
Yeah, and I don't know how it happened, but it's just how it happened. My first coaching job was at Nazareth High School with Chris Gerhardt, and I believe they were 0-12 the year before, and we came in and went 8-4. And it was like, hey, so the very first coaching experience I had was at Nazareth High School with Coach Gerhardt, and he took 0-12 and turned it 8-4, and we lost, I believe, we lost in Eastern Conference Finals, to a good Pottsville team that year, and it stuck with me. That experience stuck with me. It was like, hey, we just took something that was 0-12 and we did this. This is awesome. I had more of a sense of pride in that than anything else I had done, playing baseball. I mean, we just steamrolled people, and, it was fun. But I realized helping build something like that and be a part of it, there's just this extra layer of special to it. So that was really, those guys coached me, and now I'm coaching with them, and how they handled the kids and the attitude they had and the mental toughness they instilled. All those things I got to see firsthand from now the coaching side. And I was so young. I was 19 when I started coaching. I was 19 or 20. And it was powerful for me to see the mindset that it takes to flip a program to 0-12. And like I said, it was building relationships with the kids. It was not allowing mediocrity. It was raising expectations. It was setting the bar high. It was telling people, we don't care if we're 0-12. We'll find a way to get to the playoffs. And those guys showed me how to do that. I ended up back at Northampton High School. Same thing. Tico Johnson comes in 2003, and we were coming off I think Northampton was maybe 2-9 that year, 2-10. And Tico's first year, we go 8-4 and make the District 11 semifinals. Only the second playoff berth in Northampton's history. So again, I was part of this miraculous turnaround, and it was the same thing that Tico instilled. Hey, this is the new us. This is how it's going to be. We don't take crap from anybody. We're going to build this. And at that point, I was a little bit older, and Tico basically gave me the reins. He's a head coach, but I did everything a head coach would do. He trusted me, and that's what I learned. I said, I told Tico all the time, thanks for trusting me with this. I'm learning so much. It takes trust. That's the next layer. It's trust. Having someone trust you with a rebuild. And I was doing everything from equipment to running the weight room. You name it, I did it. And Tico gave me the keys. And I learned so much from him and how he approached kids and how he handled crisis and just the mentality with it. And I believe, from being around those guys at Nazareth High School, and then Northampton with Tico, I felt I had all the tools, to do it. I had seen enough. So I went down to, I coached at Muhlenberg, and I went to Plant City, and same thing. First year went 3-7, and it was instilling the attitude. It was changing the mindset. I got there, and the negativity was so high, and then they hired a guy from the north. So here I am coming down to Florida, and it was tough to start off, but I went right back to what I learned in Nazareth High School. This is how it's going to be done. This is how I'm going to do it. And I'm sticking to my plan. You build those relationships. Those kids at Plant City, still talk to them. I was just talking to my running back, last week. He went on. He was running back at Ohio University for Coach Solich. Jordan Presswood went to Notre Dame, played tackle for Notre Dame. He was a national recruit. Benny Coney played quarterback at Cincinnati. We were loaded. Denzel Drone played outside linebacker at Michigan State, won a Rose Bowl. Our teams were loaded. Duran Lowe went to Wake Forest. You name it. But we got in there, we were 3-7. And it was just changing the mindset. I remember getting him in the weight room after our first year going 3-7. I got him in the weight room and I locked the doors. I could probably be arrested for that now. And I said, you listen to me right now. And I had colorful language back then as well. So you listen to me right now. It ends now. And this is how it's going to be. You're either all in, you're all out. I had the coaches fling the doors open. I said, now's your time to walk out. No one walked out. Shut the doors back up. And we said, okay, this is how it's going to be. And from that day forward, we took off. It was building relationships. It was trusting the kids. It was being there for them, in the darkest hours they had. Whatever was going on, we were there for them. They knew they were going to get coached hard, but they knew we loved them harder. And reaching kids in that way is what matters. They know you care about them. That's the most important thing of all this. They know you care on and off the field. And we made sure they knew that. So it's coaching with love. It's coaching hard. It's doing all those right things and just flipping the mindset and telling them, look, if I can get over my mom dying, you can get over, your girlfriend breaking up with you today, and you can come to football practice and we can forget about it for 2 hours. And then we're going to talk to you after practice and make you feel better. That's it. It's taking time to develop relationships with kids. I'm passionate about that, and I love that. So, as a part of a flip everywhere we went. Lubbock High, they haven't had a winning season in 50 years. It's tough. And the first thing I heard when I got there was, you'll never get in the playoffs. And people snickered at me, when I said we'll get Lubbock High to the playoffs. Year 2, we did it. Every program I've been a part of, we went to the playoffs by year 2, either year 1 or year 2. And I attribute that to what I learned back in 1996 from Chris Gerhardt and all those guys at Nazareth about the mentality, mental toughness, attitude, building relationships, you name it. That's been the ingredient. Everything changes now. I started coaching and cell phones didn't exist, right? Now we have cell phones, we have huddle. But the one constant has been attitude, mental toughness, all that stuff has stayed consistent through football and building relationships. So we were able to get Lubbock High back to the playoffs. And what Lubbock High taught me was not every flip and rebuild is successful in the same measure, I guess you could say. Getting Lubbock High to the playoffs may have been the peak at Lubbock High. But I know, we started a nutrition program there. And myself and Neil Tall and the other coaches hauled close to 400,000 pounds of food for those kids in 7 years from the local food bank to feed them and build a nutrition program for them and take care of them. And it's a tough place to win. It's extremely tough. But we did everything we could. And those kids knew we loved them. And we treated them right. And, we were more competitive than what Lubbock High was for a long time. So that was a success in a lot of different ways, not the wins and losses, but we were competitive and we did great things for those kids. And it was the same ingredient. We never got to the playoffs without, those ingredients I learned in 1996. So it's staying consistent, and loving kids and building relationships and wanting to be there. That's what I say the most important ingredients are for building, or rebuilding a program.
That's pretty cool, Coach. Now, other than the culture stuff, what a lot of other people want to listen to, they want to talk X's and O's, right?
Right.
So as a coach, what were your favorite offensive and defensive schemes to run? Did you have a favorite, or did you change from place to place?
Yeah, one thing I can say consistently on defense, I was a 3-4 guy. From 1996 until my last year, I loved the 3-4. It's flexible. You can be multiple out of it. I grew up a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, still am. Dick LeBeau. Then I coached for Mike Donnelly at Muhlenberg, a huge 3-4 guy. Chris Gerhardt at Nazareth, 3-4 guy, cover 2, all that stuff. Tico Johnson, 3-4 guy. So I was a 3-4 guy my entire career. Love it. And I used to run, back in the day when teams lined up in tight ends and all that stuff, power. I used to run a lot of the bear front, bear, cover 0, cover 1. I love getting after people, and blitzing and using our outside linebackers. And, I did all kinds of corner and safety blitzes. I was known for bringing the heat. And that's what I thought the 3-4 was about, being tough. It was a mentality. And, I stuck with that. Nowadays, 3-4, you have to be, you're going to be multiple. We're doing all kinds of different things with the spread offense and so forth. But we always tried to stay true to the 3-4. Offensively, I started off as a DC, and that taught me everything you need to know, I went offense, then defense, and then back to offense. So offensively, I grew up, running a multiple pro offense. Most of my career was multiple pro. Went down to Plant City, and I ran a lot of stuff around at Muhlenberg. And I always said, you know what? I'm never gonna go shotgun. We're not a shotgun running game team now. We're not gonna do that. Well, next thing I know, in 2009, we're running spread no huddle. And one of the best seasons Plant City had. So the key with that is adapting and evolving. I was tutored a lot by Gus Malzahn. I was able to get up to Auburn a lot and learn the offense from him. And we always had recruits up there with us. So I took a lot of his principles, and instilled that into what we ran, the spread no huddle. So I turned into an inside zone guy, loved inside zone. We lived off that at Plant City, inside zone. And then we evolved to RPOs and all those things and did all that. But I still loved using a tight end, getting a tight end in, doing different things. So I became a spread guy, at the end. But I'm also a guy I believe in, if you can run the wing T, run it. Make sure you have the personnel to run it. Don't go into a place and say, well, this is me and this is what I run. It has to fit what you have. And I was fortunate enough at Plant City, and it fit us, and we switched to it. Lubbock High, for instance, we thought going spread no huddle would be a neutralizer, play fast, where defense is out. And as I was there, we ended up developing a Division I running back that's at North Texas right now. In my last year at Lubbock High, I mean, we were grinding the clock down, running him. I mean, there was a game, I think I gave him 45 carries in a game and just pounded people. That's what we tried to do. So we evolved. If I ever go back to coaching, I'd want to get in there and play fast, run the spread. But if I have two tight ends that are 6'5", 250, you may see some double tight. So I love all kinds of football, but just run what your personnel dictates you run.
Yeah, we our head coach is definitely a spread guy. He likes to call himself a power spread, so he loves watching Auburn,
yes,
Clemson, spreading the ball, spreading it out to be able to run the ball. Right. And the last 2 years we've had decent receivers, so we could actually get into doubles and trips, and we were pretty good at it. And our quarterback's a dual threat, which makes it way more dangerous. But this year we're kind of low on receivers, but we've got some big body kids who might be a tight end. So we're going to have a lot of double tight, unbalanced. We're still spread. We're still going to be in no huddle, and we're still going to run the quarterback, but we're going to look a lot more like the Ravens than we did last year.
Yeah, hey, run what fits you. And one thing to add, when I took over at Port Isabel, I mean, they were lucky, if they threw, 30 passes in a season for 20 years, or maybe forever down there. They didn't throw the ball. And I got in there in July, and our first day in practice in August, I'm like, wow, what are we going to do? And I was trying to run more of a multiple pro, use tight ends and all that stuff. And I was like, no, this doesn't fit right now, this school and what we have. And we switched to my old stuff. We had a quarterback that won Offensive Player of the Year down there. It was like playing Tecmo Bowl with him. And we had Port Isabel looking totally different than what they looked, for 20, 30 years. And, playoff game, we rolled up 602 yards of offense, and he led the charge, that quarterback, Sessa. He's playing college football right now. Great quarterback. And when we fit it to fit him, and we had a good wide receiver that year, and things worked out. Running back ran for 1,300 yards, and we switched to spread, and we had all kinds of momentum coming into this year. We lost 5 starters with injury, by week 3. And in a 4A school, it really hampers you. And all the other nonsense we were dealing with the superintendent didn't help. So kind of stunted our growth. But, that 2018 team and switching to spread, it's a great example of, adapting to what you have. Not because what they've done in the past, but what do they have now? And we made it work.
Definitely. All right. Last question I've got for you is more of an athletic director question, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. How do you personally feel that your state, how do you feel about how your state has handled the COVID-19 situation? And what are you doing as an athletic director to, make sure that you don't have an outbreak?
You know, my journey here and with COVID has been um, pretty incredible, pretty ridiculous, however you want to, label it. I started working for Manheim Township on April 1st, and we were in quarantine. So I was at my kitchen island in Texas until August 1st. So August 1st, I was working for the school district remotely, which was very interesting. I learned a lot about myself with that and what you can do as an athletic director remotely. Um, so I was kind of living in Texas and working in Pennsylvania. It was so bizarre, because I'm surrounded by all the Texas news and what's happening around us. But here I am in Pennsylvania, and I'm learning the PIAA now and so forth. So I was following, governor orders in 2 states and keep an eye on the rest of the country. It was really a fascinating time. I don't know how else to word it. But from that kitchen island in Texas, I was able to work with the admin team here and get us back to campus here and get back to workouts on June 22nd. We were one of the first ones in the county to come back. We put in a great plan, a great safety plan. We have a online daily screening form we use. The kids use a QR code to access it, and then they fill out the pre-screen every day when they come in, and then we take their temperatures upon arrival. We developed that, over the quarantine, and we were ready for when we were able to come back and have athletics. We've been rolling with that since we've come back to school. We haven't had any athletes contract COVID. It's been a learning experience. We've been safe. We take every precaution we can. We're doing everything we need to keep us safe. As far as how states have handled it, I don't. It's been back and forth. It's been frustrating at times. You don't know what's coming the next day. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, we had spectators, and then we weren't allowed to have them. Now we can have them again, and now there's different numbers we can have in. So the thing I've learned about 2020 is just be flexible. You don't know. I mean, I think, states are making decisions based on what they think is best and what they think is best for people. I mean, I'm hoping that's what they're basing everything on. It's frustrating. But in my heart, I'm hoping they're making all the right decisions based on the information we have, and nothing else is swaying that. I know that's how we operate here. And these people here in this school district care about our kids, and we're doing the best things we can for them to keep them safe and keep them on the field and in the classroom and in the band, the cheerleading team. I'm working with great people right now that care about kids. So I know we're doing everything we can on our end, and we're following whatever the governor puts out. And that's all you can do right now. But I know we're doing the best we can.
I can already tell that Manheim has gotten a good athletic director, Coach.
Thank you.
So real quick before we go, final thoughts. There's a lot of coaches out there who are having a difficult time finding positives in today's situation. Do you have any words of wisdom for all the coaches out there who might be listening to this podcast?
Yeah, it's what I learned when my mom died. You can complain, you can crawl into a hole, you can bury yourself, you can do whatever, but the world doesn't care, and the world's going to keep rolling, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. The world's not going to stop and feel sorry for you. Snap out of it, wake up, and live to fight another day, and there's always a good day right around the corner. The sun's going to come up. It always does. And that is the thing I could not grasp after my mom died. And it was coaches that helped me understand that concept. And I think all the things I just said are what they told me. And that's how I live my life now. Wake up and fight. A good day is right around the corner. So just stay at it. We'll all get through this.
Awesome, Coach. Well, Coach Strunk, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. If you get me on again, we'll talk about the Nick Saban story. People ask
Exactly.
me all the time to put that on Twitter, but I want to wait for I want to verbalize that story.
Awesome. Definitely. We will do that. This has been Coach Sheffer, and we are signing off.